Okay, hello, welcome back to another game of chess. Today we're playing e4 as per usual. We've got the cup of tea here. We've got a new sharp mullet being sported. I don't know if you can properly see that on camera, but we're going to endeavour to play a game as sharp as the mullet, which I currently sport. That is, of course, if my opponent doesn't abort the game. Apparently they have. Alright, new opponent. They were scared. That's okay. Hopefully we still get the white pieces. e4 is played as per usual, and we see a Caro Khan here. d4 is the move that we will go for against this Caro Khan. d5, and now we come to a junction, a fork in the road of my repertoire. Do I go for the Alien Gambit, paying homage to my greatest contemporary, Mr. Witty Alien? I tend to go for that a little more in blitz and bullet scenarios. In rapid chess, I prefer e5, and hopefully bishop f5. We could see c5, damn it. Okay, if bishop f5, we're going to go for this Shirov variation, knight c3, e6, and g4. Some very exciting stuff there. If c5, I should probably look far more deeply into this opening than I have, because I think it's known as the Botvinnik-Karls variation. I've got literally zero idea of what to do here. That's not quite true. I have some idea. There is an approach where you can take and play a3, b4. There's also, of course, the approach to play c3 and just defend the pawn. Then you can kind of get into a position where, I guess here, knight c6, if knight f3, probably bishop g4 is very nice, which bad me for my opponent, of course. I think I was looking at something briefly where c4 is actually quite a high percentage win rate and not very often played. Should probably develop that as some actual theory before I try to play it. Let's decide to take this, I think. I think we'll go for this. I think I will go for this a3, b4 setup where we make no attempt to hold on to the e5 pawn, and instead we secure the c5 pawn. Now maybe that's a questionable idea. You could claim that that's a questionable idea. However, this pawn structure seems very strong and reasonable. c4 might be a pawn break that I can make soon. b6 is now wildly weak. I guess maybe they want to return to here without me having some kind of b5 idea. And I guess I get to fianchet with this bishop now with tempo and a loose knight very, very quickly. So my experience in this position is exceedingly minimal. However, that could be a good thing. Can't rely so much on any kind of preparation. Instead, we're going to have to really try and figure out a plan here. Right, I really like c4 as a pawn break fairly immediately. If you take, I wouldn't love to trade the queens, but it would probably leave me in a very reasonable position. I could go c4 takes and then I guess just play like knight c3. Probably am inviting the queen trade there, I guess. But if I play knight f3, I'm just going to walk into bishop to g4. Bishop can't go to here, can't go to here. I do think exploiting some kind of path into b6 could be very reasonable. I am going to go for this c4 pawn break. Something about it intuitively feels extremely natural. If they take, maybe I'll do a bit of thinking as to whether I want to take this queen on my terms and then take the bishop here. We would get a very pleasant bishop pair there. We're also, of course, redeeming our pawn structure. In doing so, they instead play e6. Okay, that does make a whole lot of sense. I mean, the most natural way, if we go back to attack this pawn, would have been to go knight c3. Then I'm restricted as to whether I can play c4. So playing c4 first, then they defend it. Now maybe knight c3 could make an immense amount of sense. The question is, do I want to give them the opportunity to play d4? The answer probably yes. I don't know. That is a passed pawn, but I can put a lot of pressure on it. Maybe I take this first. Let's take this first just so that we're at least isolating that d pawn. Now I can put further pressure on it with knight to c3. And if you do push, okay, they don't choose to, but I'm thinking a path into b6 might be very natural indeed. Now again, I mean, knight f3, I just don't want to walk into bishop g4. Seems like such a pleasant move for my opponent. We can put some pressure on this pawn. Right, I do need to address the fact that I am nowhere near castle and kingside, and my queenside is in absolute tatters. Well, no, my queenside's in a perfectly fine state, but it's not exactly a fit state for castling. Queenside, that is, of course. Now, I could bring the knight here and bishop here and play like f3. I don't know. I do kind of love this. You know what? Why the hell not? Knight a4. Now, I've got many pieces that I need to be developing right now. I frankly don't care. I'm going to put a knight on the edge of the board that I've already moved. A principally horrific idea. You know, I've got two minor pieces that I haven't yet touched, and I'm taking a knight that was already developed on move 11 and putting it on a4. You know, that Kasparov quote about good players know the chess principles, great players know when to break the chess principles. Can I consider myself a great player? Hardly, but I'm going to do my best here to justify that knight a4 actually immediately going after b6 might have been a really quick and pretty pleasant idea. I mean, that doesn't address the fact that I can do this straight away. Now, you could just castle here, let me have this, and then play like rook here and really try and do some damage, given that I haven't developed. But now they just play rook b8. This knight is gorgeous. I'm still putting pressure on this pawn, by the way. Don't think I want to remove this. That can't really make a whole lot of sense. This knight is fantastic. Bishop's kind of restricted. That's maybe part of the reason to go for this a3, b4, holding onto this pawn. I am kind of bleeding time right now, though. Knight here, bishop here. Bishop e2, not the end of the world. Okay, I will go knight here. I think I need to develop this knight. I don't want to just be scared of bishop g4. I mean, I can immediately play bishop e2. It doesn't seem like the end of the world. Instead, they just decide to stabilize the pawn. That makes sense. I mean, we've got a gorgeous bishop here. Why not get maybe another gorgeous bishop here? The bishop's looking frankly superb. There is some scenario where I have, I don't know, rook c1 played and then this bishop back on b1, and we just have twin snipers, which I'm honestly quite interested in doing very quickly. I guess I should castle, but Also, I could play h4. I mean, why castle when you can play h4? That's my motto. I think I'm going to start with rook c1. I genuinely love the idea of tucking this bishop back on b1. I think it could be fantastically positioned there. I don't want to block in this rook. They try and get rid of my knight, and they're going to be able to do so successfully. I clearly don't want to back out this way, but I'm vaguely setting up something a little Greek, perhaps. We might be saying Yasu. I think that's Greek. We might be saying Kalimera. Again, I think that's Greek. Greek people in the comments, please correct me on my most likely terrible pronunciation and also knowledge of your beautiful language. Forgive me. I'm very familiar with the letters because I studied mathematics at university. Not so much the words. We might indeed say Evcharisto. I'm finished trying to speak Greek. There could be some idea on h7. Now, immediately, I don't think it works. There's always going to be some kind of bishop f5. Of course, immediately it doesn't work because I don't have knight g5. You can just take. There is this idea to play h4. And if you take, go bishop h7, here check. And if they take, then that's a check and I can play queen h5 and I'm probably completely winning. But if h4, knight takes here, bishop h7, king takes knight g5, king g8, queen h5, there's just bishop f5. The mate threat's held. I can recapture here and I think we've just sacked a piece for basically no reason. Yeah, okay. That's not looking wildly like it's going to happen. And it does look like they might be getting rid of my pony, which I'm quite upset about. Should I just castle? It doesn't seem like the most exciting thing to do. I could play h4 regardless and then kind of hide my king on f1. I have 2 minutes left. I'm going to castle. I probably should have at least taken this and kept my structure here. Instead I've castled and lost a pawn. What the hell is wrong with me? I had a gorgeous position. I still have a very nice position, but I've very much thrown something away there. There's no way that was an optimal sequence of moves. Okay. I'm going to play knight e4. I want to be able to push my f-pawn. My opponent could take if they wanted to trade. We, of course, get tempo on the queen here. And then tactically speaking, of course, after knight takes, bishop takes, they cannot take my bishop because I'd have bishop h7. And after king takes, I would be picking up that queen. So the fact that bishop h7 is a check tactically defends this knight here on d4. And maybe I can push my f-pawn. Maybe I'm also trying to get rid of that light squared bishop. My bishop's still relatively lovely. I got a bit lost there in a reverie calculating h4 ideas. And yeah, it's just doesn't seem to have paid off. I seem to be down a pawn with no time on the clock whatsoever. However, knight f5. Let's transfer over. You can remove this if you like, but it's going to come at the cost of the bishop pair. And I'm at least going to have that light square bishop as a very unrivaled and fantastic piece, probably slotting back to b1 at some point and just staring here. If you don't want to take this, well, I mean, I'm threatening to win the bishop pair. In fact, I'm probably threatening rook takes c6. Like, if you just play like rook c8, let's say, then I can play rook c6, brilliant move, because if queen, pawn, bishop, or rook takes, then I get to take this with check, and that would of course be disastrous for my opponent. I'm also threatening stuff on g7, and if you play bishop f6, there's problems. I think you basically have to take this. I don't know what you do if you don't take this, because bishop f6, you clearly don't want to open up the king like that. In fact, bishop f6 just takes, queen g4, king h8, and then mate here, right? So they just remove it. I mean, that was basically forced. However, we now do have the bishop pair, as I said. They're closing this out, which isn't exactly what I love to see. I do have an idea to maybe just put some pressure on the bishop, bring back some idea of rook c6. You know what? Bishop b1 straight away. Why not? I want to get the queen in front of the bishop. There's nothing immediately perhaps very concrete here. I don't know. But I do now have queen d3, blockading the pawn, and of course threatening checkmate. If you play g6, you're going to start to soften stuff up. Nice. Do I go for something like this? That does soften this up, but I'm blockading it. Rook here, just bishop here maybe. Hold on. Do I have like a rook sack now and then bishop takes it? Nah, that would be stupid, right? Might also be inspired and genius. Right, f4. f4 because I want to bite on here. I want to create some problems for my opponent. I'm going to keep this blockaded as long as I can. I'm not allowing knight e5 to kick my queen to then push this with any problems here. I bring the bishop to f6. I'll play f5. Now I am allowing knight e5 to kick my queen to push this to make some problems happen here. The bishop goes back. I mean, this can't be the right move. But then again, this can't really be the right move. Let's just go here. Let's go here. We're squeezing. We're creating some problems. Wow, I'm taking this every day of the week. What on earth is that? Now I can take this and promote, and now I can take this. Hold on. I've got 2 bishops and a rook for a queen and 2 pawns. What an insane exchange. Okay, I don't know if I deserve this position. Almost certainly they could have just played like bishop h8 there. Maybe bishop h6. I don't really know. But that little line of captures giving up my queen like that, that's pleasant stuff indeed. I think I want to stack these rooks. I need to move. I need to move quickly. Let's do this. Again, keeping this blockade is a fantastic idea, so keeping the piece that's blockading it protected should also be a fantastic idea. Stacking on the f-file should be fairly fantastic. It's just a whole lot of fantastic stuff here, I do believe. Although maybe we should reroute and put pressure on f7. That might be the way to go here. I think I can probably win this pawn as well. I mean, also bishop c8 and then bishop h6. Hold on, this looks fantastic for me. I can walk in here and just force the rook to move and then take on f7. I'll go here. You don't have this check. I mean, you never had that check, but sweet. We're holding this, we're holding this. Like, everything's very, very, very held. It's a super, super strong structure that we've got going on. Literally nothing is unheld. That's fantastic. That's maybe problematic. Oh my lord. Step back here. Probably shouldn't have done that. Just maybe trying to give this check, honestly. You come across here, I give the check. Yeah, we've got to go for it, I guess. Gonna come up, maybe? Or you're gonna do that. Hold on. Bishop here. You just come in somehow. You've got to be careful. You've got to be very careful indeed. Your queen has to now stay attached to e5, which of course it necessarily has to do because it's moving somewhere from e5. But then if we can kick it again, I don't know. This is looking like a soft king. A soft king indeed. Rook here. What are you doing about bishop e5? What are you doing about bishop e5? Because rook here loses the game. Hold on. I think bishop e5 just wins next move. If you move the queen, I'm going to play bishop e5. If you don't move the queen, I'm going to play bishop e5. You can't move the king except from to g7, and I'm playing bishop e5. The only reason I can't pre-move it is because, of course, they could play rook e8, in which case this would be a blunder, and I should just take the rook. Hold on, I need to make sure I don't flag here. This is a massive... Oh, my lord. Here. This is actually now defended. Wow. Awesome. Okay, here. You don't want to trade. That makes things way too easy for me. But also, you leave me with rooks, and then maybe things are also easy for me. I don't know. Check. Going behind here, I'm going to take this unless you go here. Then what am I going to do here? I don't know, I want to anchor down my pieces. I might just bring the bishop to f3, honestly. Oh, I should take on h7, actually. Here. Here. Bringing the bishop here seems like a nice idea. We're really squeezing where that king can go. I play h5. G5, but I go here. Sweet. Sweet. Very, very, very sweet indeed. Nice. 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 Nice, nice. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. And that's at least a draw. But of course, a draw is not what we're playing for here. No, no, no. We are playing for the win. Thank you very much for watching this game. For some reason, I just defaulted to... I was about to outro the video. Thanks for watching. Whatever. We've got to analyze this game, of course. But oh my lord. Okay, hold on. Just before we analyze, I'd imagine here, knight e5 had to be a mistake. It had to be a mistake. Or a blunder. Probably just bishop h8. I was running kind of low on time. I mean, the position's not exactly very pleasant for my opponent. I might just go rook here, try and sacrifice something and enter like that. Or even just sort of get the rook here and slide the queen up and in. You know, it was going to be unpleasant and it was going to be kind of a bit of a squeeze, but I'd imagine that they had a good position with actually quite a strong and defended, quite a strong and defended passed pawn worth of an advantage. And then knight e5 did allow this very interesting exchange where I ended up getting a bishop, a rook, and a knight, all for the price of a queen and a pawn. Wow, let's analyze that game. Okay, so here we are in the analysis with a 90% accurate game, a couple blunders. Hold on, did I miss a forced mate? Are you taking the... Obviously, guys, I'm so sorry. Well, I mean, you know, I'm not sorry for the content, of course. You know, that time scramble was hopefully entertaining for you guys and fun for me. Of course, we just had rook here. I am so stupid. If king g7, there is checkmate in one because the bishop holds h6, which is absolutely lovely. And of course, if the queen moves, I mean, then we're going to get mate in one, but from the bishop. That's nasty. So I did, in fact, miss a mate in two, and... funnily enough, bishop e5, which I thought was the move that sealed the game, was actually a blunder. It did, however, still seal the game. The other blunder was playing knight f5, which I thought... Okay, so the moves that I thought were the best in this game were absolute blunders. This graph is troubling because apparently... I mean, this little spike here is just reflective of a missed win. Apparently, instead of knight f5, I had something far stronger. Let's go through the game and we'll see what it was. So, e4, c6. Yeah, we go for this Botvinnik-Karls variation. Takes here... I'll keep the Masters database open, actually. Takes is the top move. Here, and then a3 is played 95 times in the Masters database. This is reasonable stuff. In general, bishop b5, knight f3, f4. f4 looks kind of interesting. I might look into that. But this a3 approach where they can't immediately recapture the pawn, you know, they don't go for e6 straight away so they can take with the bishop. They instead develop the knight first, then knight e5, b4. This is an approach taken by Jan Nepomniachtchi, in fact. Okay, so I mean, I'm in good company with this opening selection. It's some interesting imbalance. Here, bishop b2 definitely makes some sense. And actually, I played the opening really well. Was c4 the best move there? Okay, I mean, in the Masters database, knight f3 is played, but c4 is a reasonable move. It's one of the top moves. Okay, sweet. c4, they go e6, takes, and we isolate that pawn. Going after it, knight a4. Tell me. Oh my lord, it's there. Oh my lord, it's there. It's disappearing. It's at the top. Oh no, it's disappearing again. It's creeping its way back up. Man, the thrill of watching horses compete for first position, it's almost like gambling. Okay, so effectively indistinguishable from the best move, but for 0.1 of an evaluation. I'm very happy with knight a4. Going in here to exploit this, knight f3, bishop here. I mean, this opening was lovely until at this point I should have played probably just castles. Okay, knight g5 immediately. Castles, queen c2. Yeah, there were many more ideas rather than playing rook c1 so I could bring the bishop back to b1. It's a nice idea, but I clearly have priorities. They drop the knight back. I castle, takes. I play knight d4 here, which is obviously a nice move. Clearly, if takes, they can't take the bishop because bishop h7, as I said in the game. But I'd just like to bring to your attention that I had 1 minute and 59 seconds left on the clock. I mean, 18 moves into the game. My time management when recording these videos needs some insane work. Flipping hell, what is wrong with me? I mean, my opponent has the complement. They've got 8 minutes. They've used 2, I have 2 left. This is honestly a joke. They go bishop back, which was apparently a blunder. Can I work out why now? Is a good question. I'm wondering if there was an immediate queen h5, because if g6, maybe there was some queen h6, and then we kind of threatened to take, and there's mate threats on here. Let's see. It was queen h5. Damn, it's so easy to see these things in the analysis, not in the game. You hear top grandmasters talking about, how to cheat, all they would need is sort of like a cough from someone in the audience at the appropriate time where there is a good idea to look for. Clearly, I'm nowhere near remotely that level, but the second that I'm being told, like, this is a blunder, you have a way to punish it, queen h5 seems so natural. And then I'm imagining queen h5, g6, probably we just go into h6, right? Oh no. Sorry, I missed this completely. Nah, that's ridiculous. Here, knight takes, pawn takes, checkmate. That is obscene. That is frankly ridiculous. Yeah, I can play knight takes c6 here. You have to recapture, let's say with the bishop, and then at this point probably I have queen e5, right? I hit the bishop and I threaten mate. That is an absolutely insane combination. If g6, knight c6, because we have an intermezzo threat of mate on e7, and then in the end we're going to be able to hit the bishop and hit this. Okay, so I mean g6, queen h6 wasn't the right idea. Queen h5 to then find some freaky stuff was the right idea. If they played h6 here, then what's the move? Then I can sack my rook for this knight, and if here I get to play knight f5, okay, that's gorgeous. And if pawn takes knight f5 anyway, and if here, then here, and if here, then queen e5. Okay, I can't be mad at myself for missing this. Queen h5 is kind of obvious that that's a good idea, and I'm happy that knight f5 was at least part of some tactical excellence there. But queen h5 effectively forced you to push one of these pawns. I guess f5 was also kind of interesting. I don't want to spend billions of years analysing this game, but the point is that there were very nasty tactics to be found there if queen h5. Unfortunately, I went for knight h5, which by I mean f5, straight away. They then had the opportunity to take. I think I was correct about all the implications if they didn't take. So then I played bishop takes, they pushed the pawn. Bishop b1, inaccurate, but it looks nice. They move their rook, queen d3 clearly makes some sense. Then they play g6. f4 was actually inaccurate. Was I was doing very badly around here. Not horrifically, of course, but I guess bishop f6, here. This was a mistake. And there's the blunder from them. Okay, so I was correct in saying that actually, I mean, I guess if they played like bishop h8, bishop h6 is actually stronger. I guess you're just tickling the rook and I've got some problems. It's still an interesting position and I'm still sure I could fight for some play. But my opponent's definitely doing very well, and even though I'm blockading this pawn, I don't know, like, it's very well protected and it's a major problem and it's slowing down all my stuff. Bearing in mind I had less than a minute on the clock when I played f6. They then went for this. We immediately snapped this off. Take here, of course, first with check, then take this. And at this point I have a +2 advantage, and then seemingly play like an absolute wizard. Stack the rooks here. Bring the bishop back to c1. What a pleasant move indeed. Step back to c2. Engine does prefer bishop h6. Fair enough. I like the idea of giving this check, and we go for it. The king goes across. Then bishop here. Queen here's a blunder. Because, of course, I step across, and now I'm just threatening bishop to e5, winning said queen. I mean, that's not obvious at all. There were a bunch of moves they could have played. If they'd gone queen e7, then I guess I just don't get to bring a rook here. Okay, so they needed to stay on the e-file. Queen e8, queen e7, even queen e4. However, queen e4, you might end up getting a little carried away, who knows, and then getting yourself brutally checkmated by bishops. So clearly with 20 odd seconds on the clock, that would have been significantly harder to defend if they hadn't played queen f6. I'm not going to blame my opponent. It doesn't seem completely obvious that you need to stop. It kind of does, actually. They have plenty of time. And rook e1, bishop here is kind of the only thing you need to worry about. However, of course, we went rook e1. They blundered m2. I then decided to toy with my food slightly more, which by I mean I missed the mate in 2. They take, we take, they give a check, and at this point, we're going in behind. I mean, bring the bishop, taking the pawn, just restricting the king, bring the bishop to f3. We've got 10 seconds left. Push the pawn. If they don't push, they're probably in some trouble here. But if they do push, then of course that made things slightly easier because we can trade some stuff off and get some pre-moves in. At this point, 6.9 seconds. You need about, I don't know, 3 here to make sure you're feeling pretty good and feel pretty good. I did. You bring the rook across to the other side of the pawn, so you're never worried about the king going to catch that queen, or rather that pawn as it promotes to a queen. Then, I mean, there are many more efficient ways to do this, but bringing the queen to this side of the rook, if the queen's on this side, then maybe, if I pre-moved it there, the king could have taken it, but you cannot approach, the queen defends the rook, and you just walk it down. I don't know why I'm explaining a ladder mate. However, in low time, there is some technique to doing it. And then, yeah, queen to g8. We get the mate. A frankly ridiculous game. Hopefully that was entertaining. Thank you very, very, very much for watching. If you enjoyed this video and also enjoy my general content, please consider checking out the Patreon. Link is in the description. It is by far the best way to support the channel, and in return, you will get a bonus Patreon exclusive video every single Sunday, just like the one you've seen here, and just like plenty of these Lichess Rapid videos which you see across my channel for an absolute bargain of about £8. Anyway, massively appreciate anyone who checks that out. Like, comment, and subscribe, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Goodbye.